So first of all, thank you so much, Mayor, for sitting down and doing these Minute with the Mayor interviews with me. This week has marked your 50-day mark, so you're halfway through your first 100 days in the
Wow.
mayor's office. So I just want to talk to you about some of the things that you mentioned that you want to accomplish in your first 100 days. So those are housing, homelessness, and unity. You want to set out and accomplish ways to tackle those issues in the city. And I think that it's fitting to talk this week about unity. So, first of all, what are some things that you've accomplished so far in your first 100 days to make Fort Myers more unified?
Well, unfortunately, things are not moving as quick as I would like. Um, I am still in the interview process for finding people to sit on this task force. We hope to have that wrapped up within the next 10 days and then start getting that task force working on unity. But as we discussed, it's very important, not just to this community, but any community.
Just thinking about what's going on in the country today, can't miss it. No matter where you live, I'm sure you've seen the chaos that happened in the US Capitol. What was your reaction seeing that?
Again, I am a big proponent of the First Amendment. I mean, it is the First Amendment. And so people have the right to protest. But that right includes protesting peacefully and within the confines of the law. So it was very saddening. I was very disappointed to see that a percentage of that group stepped over the line and went from being peaceful to being committing criminal acts. And I hope that's not a sign of 2021. And I hope that we as a country can get by that. We can get past this.
There are people in the city of Fort Myers who are upset about the election results, and some people from Southwest Florida went to the US Capitol to express their frustration with the election results. Now, what we saw yesterday, as you already mentioned, is it's not acceptable. It was violence, it was destruction, but just going back to what you're talking about, which is unity. Now, the election results have already been certified, and there are still going to be people who are upset about those results. What would you say to them who are still upset so that they're not taking matters into their own hands like what we saw in the US Capitol this week?
Well, first of all, Rachel, violence begets violence. So it's not the answer. Um, we as Americans, we have the right to protest, and there's nothing wrong with that. But as I said earlier, it's got to be done in the right way. It's got to be peaceful. It can't be violent. Uh, we need to accept whether we like the results or not. We need to accept that these are the results right now. There are procedures. One of them is voting. If you're not happy with how things have been handled, then vote for different people. Also, those elected officials who are responsible for our election results, hold them accountable to do their jobs. But in the meantime, we're not going to change it through violence.
And if we were to see something like what unfolded in the US Capitol here in Fort Myers, how would that affect your plans to unify the city?
It would probably put us a few
And
steps
speaking
back,
of uniting the
but
community,
it's
you
not going
already
to stop
mentioned you
us.
don't want people to just come and sort of vent or complain about the problems, but it is important to acknowledge and address those issues. What would you say are the major divisive issues that are preventing Fort Myers from being a more unified city?
Well, unfortunately, we have a reputation. There's a lot of people who believe that we're one of the most segregated communities in the country. I think if we really delve into that and look at the community, we're going to find out that's probably not true. Not as true as it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or 30 years ago. For example, I went driving down Cortez Boulevard between 41 and McGregor just a couple of weeks ago. And looking at the children waiting at the bus stops, I thought, wow, look at the diversity of these bus stops. That's a good sign. That's a great sign. So it's not all white kids staying at one bus stop and Hispanic kids at another bus stop and black kids at another bus stop. We're not seeing that. I mean, there are some neighborhoods where that does occur, but I think we're seeing a slow change, and we need to work on that.
And then also another controversial issue that has been in the headlines a lot last year, the Robert E. Lee bus. That's finally taken down. Council has voted to keep it down, but that was a divisive issue that a lot of people weighed in on. So moving forward, what are the city's plans to address issues like that? I mean, you have one group of people who are saying, you know, this symbolizes our pain, our hurt. Another group of people who's saying that this is a work of art or it's a part of history. So moving forward, what are some ways that you plan to address issues like that?
Yeah, one thing that does concern me is, you know, we could take different symbols and start saying, well, we find that offensive. And what we're doing is a form of censorship. But I understand the history of Robert E. Lee. And I understand that people say, you know, there's this bust of this man in a very prominent position. I get that. And so maybe the thing is because that was the only bust in all of downtown. In fact, probably the only bust in public land in all of the city. So maybe one thing is to look at if we're going to put up a bust, well, no, we should put up multiple busts reflecting the true diversity of the people who made this city and this state.
What does your plan look like to unify people in the city of Fort Myers?
Well, believe it or not, one of the things I think that can really help with this is if we can start really focusing on economic development and bringing companies, attracting companies to Fort Myers that offer good paying jobs and create employment opportunities for those areas where there's high levels of unemployment, where people don't see that opportunity. I think if we can do that, then the housing issue doesn't become quite as bad, because now if your incomes are higher, then those houses are not unattainable like they are now.